welcome to the deep dive. We're here to take that stack of research and articles you sent us, all about driving safely near farm equipment, and, well, turn it into something you can actually use.
Yeah, our mission today is to dig into this paradox of the open road.
The quiet country highway.
Right.
Right. It seems safe, but the second you see an agricultural vehicle or an AV, everything changes.
It's such a critical topic because, rural collisions involving this kind of equipment, they are just disproportionately severe.
Deadly.
Oh, yeah. Drivers just completely underestimate the massive difference in speed and size.
Yeah.
We're talking about combines, tractors, these huge specialized carts that, frankly, operate under a different set of rules, a different set of physics, even.
That's the core challenge we really need to unlock here. These things have enormous blind spots. They need a huge amount of space to turn, and their speed, it can be really deceptive.
It can.
So we're going to dive way beyond just the usual advice of be patient.
Yeah.
We want to get into the technical knowledge, the legal awareness you need to share the road safely.
To start, let's define exactly what we're dealing with. According to the source material, a farm vehicle is defined by its main purpose.
Its primary use.
Exactly. It has to be used in farming or agricultural operations. So that could be planting, harvesting, caring for livestock, or just transporting products from one place to another. That's the key.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for the average driver, and I found this fascinating in the sources. The rules around these machines are all over the place.
Oh, highly fragmented.
We think of vehicle registration as, black and white. You either have a license plate or you don't. But farm vehicles live in this gray area.
Precisely. If that vehicle, let's say a small ATV or something, is used only on private farm property, it's usually exempt from road registration.
Right.
But if you have a farm truck that's constantly hauling grain or livestock on public roads, it'll often need full commercial registration. It has to follow much stricter maintenance rules.
So why do I, as the driver behind them, need to know that legal distinction?
Well, because that registration status tells you something about the potential safety net.
How so?
A fully registered commercial farm vehicle has mandated insurance, usually higher standards for maintenance, for driver licensing. An exempt vehicle, like a tractor just crossing between fields, might have older gear, less visible lighting, and the operator might only be licensed for, agricultural necessities.
Commercial standards.
Exactly. It just fundamentally changes your assumption about its roadworthiness.
Wow. So it's not just, is it a tractor? It's what level of regulatory oversight applies to this specific machine.
That's a great way to put it.
So when we look at the vehicles causing these issues, the list is pretty long. We all know the big high-horsepower tractors pulling plows and things.
Then you have the true giants, the combine harvesters.
Right.
These are massive, complex machines, sometimes wider than 2 whole lanes, built for harvesting corn, wheat, that kind of thing. And don't forget the other equipment. Self-propelled sprayers, hay ballers, those enormous grain carts.
And the sources also highlighted some unexpected ones.
The ATVs and UTV.
Yeah, those little utility vehicles. They're essential on the farm for quick tasks, but they often cross or use public roads for just a minute or two.
Which makes their appearance super unpredictable, especially around dawn or dusk. You're just not looking for them.
And that unpredictability, that leads us right into the core dangers, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. When analysts look at the data on AV collisions, the sheer speed differential is the overwhelming primary cause.
It seems obvious that a tractor is slow, but let's talk about the physics of that for a second. Why is that difference so deadly?
It's all about closing speed and your reaction time.
Right.
So imagine you're driving, say, 60 miles per hour on a rural highway. You come up on an unobserved tractor that's moving at 15 miles per hour.
Right.
Your closing speed is actually 45 miles per hour. That's about 66 feet every single second.
So at highway speeds, that distance just vanishes.
It melts away. If you're distracted for even 3 seconds, just a quick glance at your phone, you've covered nearly 200 feet before you even realize there's a problem. A severe rear-end collision becomes almost inevitable.
And then that speed differential is compounded by the machines themselves, their size and their visibility issues.
Absolutely. Not only are they wide, often straddling the center line, but the operator's visibility is just, it's terrible.
We think about blind spots in our cars.
But the operator of a big combine is sitting way up high, surrounded by equipment, by grain tanks. The blind spots are massive. They cover huge areas in front, to the sides, and directly behind them. If you're tailgating, you are completely invisible to them. Guaranteed.
And maneuverability is I mean, it's just not there.
No, they are not agile. They need so much more space for turns. They take way longer to stop. Their weight alone, even at low speeds, means they carry immense momentum.
And beyond the physics of a crash, the sources detail these other unpredictable hazards, things like maintenance issues.
Yes, and driver behavior. A huge one is improper load securing.
That's a double threat, right?
It is. You've got debris falling off, tools, soil, even hay bales creating instant hazards on the road.
But the other part is even worse.
Much worse. If a load of grain or feed shifts while the vehicle is moving, the whole center of gravity changes in an instant. The operator can lose control, it can lead to a jackknife, or the whole thing overturning.
And that heavy load means heavy wear and tear.
You see a lot of risks with mechanical failures. Brake failure is common when you're hauling heavy trailers, especially downhill. Another one is hydraulic lines. If a line breaks, you can lose control of whatever you're towing, or even your steering.
And you can't ignore the human element here. The sources really emphasize this.
Operator fatigue. It is a massive contributing factor.
Because they're working insane hours during planting or harvest season.
You're talking 14, 16, even 18-hour days. That just kills your reaction time. It degrades your ability to make good decisions.
And finally, there are the impacts on the road itself. The sheer weight of these AVs, it puts so much stress on the road surface.
Leads to ruts, deterioration, especially on older rural roads that just weren't built for these kinds of weights. And don't forget chemical spills.
Like fertilizer or diesel.
Exactly. If that stuff gets on the road, it seriously compromises tire traction. It can turn a simple curve into a skid risk for every car that comes after.
It's a truly multifaceted hazard. So, to counter these dangers, there are mandatory regulations and safety features that every driver should be able to recognize instantly.
You absolutely need to know what the law requires of that AV operator.
So let's start with speed.
Okay, so it's regional, but AVs have much lower speed limits. A lot of states might set a default limit, maybe 25 miles per hour.
But the sources pointed out an important exception.
They did. Some newer farm vehicles can actually go up to 40 miles per hour, but only if they're specially equipped with heavy-duty brakes, the right kind of tires, and enhanced lighting.
The key takeaway, though, is that even the fast AVs are still moving 20 or 30 miles an hour slower than the posted speed limit.
Right. But the instant warning sign, the one thing everyone needs to burn into their memory, is the SMV emblem.
The slow-moving vehicle emblem.
That's the one. It's that bright orange triangular sign with a red reflective border. It is legally required on the rear of any vehicle that can't go faster than 25 miles per hour on a public road.
And that sign is not optional.
Not at all. It's a non-negotiable legal requirement. It's meant to give you that critical head start to slow down.
And it has to be mounted correctly, right?
Yeah.
In the center rear, between 2 and 6 feet off the ground.
That's right. If you see that orange triangle, your foot should already be coming off the accelerator.
Beyond the emblem, there are other mandated visibility features.
Of course, functioning headlights, taillights, clear turn signals. But what's becoming more and more important is conspicuity tape.
The reflective striping.
Yeah, it's required to outline the vehicle's extremities. This is vital at night or twilight. It makes the vehicle visible from 500 feet away or more.
And for the operator's own safety, there's the ROPS structure. That's ROPS, Rollover Protective Structure. Can you explain that?
So ROPS is basically a reinforced metal frame. It's designed to create a survival space for the operator if the tractor overturns.
Which is a surprisingly common risk.
Very common, especially on slopes or uneven ground. It dramatically reduces crushing injuries. But, and this is a key detail, ROPS only works if the operator is wearing a seatbelt.
Otherwise, they could be thrown out of that protected space.
Exactly. Thrown from the zone of protection.
Okay, that makes sense. And finally, there's the width issue. When the equipment they're pulling extends beyond a normal lane, there are specific indicators required.
Correct. You're talking about special flags, usually red or orange, and sometimes flashing amber lights on the widest points of the equipment.
So if you see those flags, what does that mean for you?
It means that vehicle is encroaching into the other lane or onto the shoulder. You have to give it an even wider berth.
Okay, this brings us to the most practical part of our deep dive, translating all these risks and rules into actual steps for you, the driver.
How should you behave?
The second you see one of these giants on the road, what do you do?
Patience and distance. That is the foundation. You must maintain a safe following distance. Given the blind spots, the long stopping distances, tailgating is just asking for a collision.
And slow down early.
way in advance. Don't wait until you're right on their bumper to hit the brakes.
And let's talk about the most misunderstood maneuver, the wide turn. This is where people get into so much trouble trying to pass.
We absolutely need a scenario here. So imagine you're behind a very wide tractor. It slows down, it signals a turn right.
Yeah.
But the vehicle itself starts to drift far to the left, almost to the center line. What are you thinking as the driver behind it?
I might think he's turning left, or maybe he's trying to let me pass on the right.
Which is an incredibly dangerous, often fatal assumption.
So what's actually happening?
The operator isn't trying to let you pass. He has to swing wide to the left to give the huge implement he's pulling, a big cedar or something, the space to actually clear the corner and track properly into that field entrance on the right.
So you have to wait.
You must wait. Never, ever try to squeeze by on the right shoulder, even if it looks open. Give them the entire road. The same thing applies in reverse. They might swing wide right to set up for a tight left turn.
Watch the signals, and when in doubt, just wait.
Wait for the maneuver to be completed.
Okay, so when it comes to actually passing, what are the deep dive specifics for passing an AV?
Only pass when it is 100% legal and you have way more clear road ahead than you think you need.
More than you think.
Much more. Do not pass when the AV is approaching a hill, a curve, or, and this is crucial, if its turn signal is on, even if that wide setup makes the turn signal confusing.
So signal your own intention early.
Signal early, pass quickly and decisively, and make sure you are completely past the implement and whatever it's towing before you move back into the lane. Cutting them off is so dangerous because their braking distance is just vast.
We also need to anticipate their movements, right? It's not just what they're doing on the road, it's about what they're doing relative to the fields around the road.
Absolutely. You're likely to see AVs slow down abruptly to enter or exit a field, be ready for sudden stops, and beyond that, anticipate visibility hazards.
Dust and dirt.
If that AV is moving from a dusty field onto the pavement, it's going to kick up a huge cloud of dust. Slow down immediately, maintain your distance, and be ready for possible debris on the road.
The ultimate takeaway here seems to be that sharing the road with agricultural vehicles, it just demands a complete shift away from our normal highway mindset.
It requires technical awareness and a calculated caution.
A powerful distillation of the source material. Thank you. So let's end with a final provocative thought that connects all this to our shared infrastructure.
Yeah, the sources repeatedly brought up the incredible weight of these vehicles and the damage they do to roads, to bridges, to culverts, damage that requires frequent, costly repairs paid for by all of us.
Right.
So it raises this fundamental question of resource management. How do we, as a driving public, accept and fund the inevitable impact these vital, heavy vehicles have on the infrastructure we all rely on?
Given that they're doing the necessary work of feeding us.
Exactly. It's a challenge of balancing economic necessity with infrastructural sustainability, and that goes way beyond just deciding when to change lanes.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.